What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? It is Wayne here with MEDIACLASH podcast, and I am joined by artist extraordinaire. And I'm going to use the word extraordinaire.
Come on now.
Because you are a great artist. Robby Musso, Transformers, just an amazing artist, and I'm so thankful that I met you earlier this year. Second time you're on the show, and at an appropriate time, no less.
Yeah, and the timing was good.
The timing
right?
is perfect for this. You made your shout-outs yesterday, Hasbro PulseCon, figure of SKIDS, Transformers Legacy, or Generations Legacy SKIDS came out. You did the concept art and design for the update of this character, who doesn't have many figures.
Right, yeah, SKIDS doesn't have too many. Yeah, and I was, like you mentioned about how it was announced, and it was shown a few days ago, but it was also shown again yesterday.
Yeah, so it was shown at IGN
podcast,
a couple of days ago.
Or the PulseCon cast.
Yeah.
Mark, I'll shout out Mark Maher, because Mark shouted me out, but I was unexpected, and I was, really I was glad to hear. It was nice to get a shout out like that.
Yeah, I mean, because you were the first. They showed SKIDS first, so they name dropped you first, and like everybody, like the forums blew up. Proto Man was talking about you later that night on his show. Like it was just all over. Like, it was taken aback. Like, I know Robby, and they're just like talking about him. Like, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Just to be able to geek out for you. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I guess it's different if it's you, but I'm like, man, I know that guy.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've worked on the brand and worked on the franchise for a while, but it's nice to get some recognition and to get like a little a shout out like that. So like I said, it's really appreciated, and I was glad to work on that character. The original toy, like if you know me, I'm a car enthusiast and import cars in particular, and the original SKIDS was a Honda City Turbo, so to be able to work on that character, to be able to help like update that vehicle mode, it was an honor, and it was a pleasure to be able to do it.
I mean, it's a great design, like from the sketch, even the translation from the sketch to the actual figure. Like I was expecting like a remold of something, but he looks like he's pretty much an original mold now.
Oh yeah. It's all new mold.
Yeah, and so it looks like a lot of work went into a character that again doesn't often get a lot of figures, a lot of screen time or page count when it comes to the comics or the cartoons. But he seems like he's a character that everyone loves. Because if I remember right, the original SKIDS was like a mail away.
Yeah, well, I was actually talking with another friend of mine yesterday, day before. But SKIDS was a character, like, he was supposed to come out in Wave 1, like back in 1984, but for one reason or another, he was one of those Diaclone toys that just didn't make that first roster. And I remember seeing that character, like, in the 1985 catalog, the Series 2 catalog, and I thought he was cool, but I never saw him in stores. Like, I never even saw like a SKIDS toy until like the late 90s.
I think he was a mail away.
Yeah,
like with the along with like the throttle bots.
It's possible.
And I think he was a mail away.
I've had other friends say like, yeah, I got him, at Toys R Us or Children's Palace, but I don't remember ever seeing him personally.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that he was rare, which is all the more crazy that he is such a popular character.
Yeah, well, I think he is one like. Kind of has more of a blank slate too. Like you were saying, a lot of the other characters, they all had their spotlights on the G1 cartoon, and I think SKIDS did appear, but
he shows up in like an episode or two, and that's it.
Yeah, he didn't have like, I don't even remember if he had lines, like, but I think he did, but it wasn't much. He didn't have like full blown like.
Yeah, he didn't get like most of the characters would get a spotlight.
Yeah.
Episode, like he's not one of those characters that got a spotlight.
Exactly.
Episode.
He didn't have like a really memorable moment. You think of Sideswipe, he had like that time when he gave Optimus his rocket pack.
Yeah.
Or like, Brawn flashes, infrared to find like Ravage like on the side of the mountain. So you had all of these little moments that all the other characters had, but SKIDS really didn't have that. So I think he really is sort of like a blank slate for a lot of fans and a lot of like 80s kids like us who grew up at that time period. but didn't really have anything to really like build upon with that character.
So yeah, he was always kind of one of those, just like, I wonder what he's like. And then he's gotten some love in the comics. Over the years.
Yeah, and he had a cool arc in the '80s comic too. Like it was, and it was actually the Marvel comic did give him like a little bit of a feature, but not all of us had access to the comics as kids. Like all of us had access to the cartoon because it just came on TV. But with the comics, you know, even back then, unless you actually went to the comic store or kept up with it, you didn't know that Skids had any kind of, you know, really character development at all.
Yeah. So just for those who don't know, like, what is the process like when it comes to, like, how far out did you start work on that character, the design? It
was probably, if I'm thinking back, I think I first started talking with was Mark. I don't know if it was like July or August of last year, of 2020. So, you know, and I think by the time I actually had the drawings done and we had it like ironed out, you know, because there's a lot of back and forth. You know, we do revisions. You know, have to make adjustments and stuff. So, I mean, it may have been September or October by the time, you know, I sent him the final drawings. You know, the drawings that I posted, you know, on social media and stuff. So, you know, and they just announced it and showed it like a couple of days ago. So, you're talking about over a year.
Yeah, him and Bulkhead got shown on IGN a couple of days before the actual PulseCon.
Right.
And when you had put out that the basically like that tech sheet looking like the drawings, like it went up all over. Like it was the TF2005.com, like the forums and their main news page put that up. Like it was like, because I think as someone who's a fan of the line and who buys the line, we haven't gotten a lot of official reveals for anything that was coming up.
Right.
I think a lot of Wave 4 of Kingdom just got released without them even talking about it. Like Tigatron came out, nobody knew.
Which is for a pleasant, refreshing like surprise.
Yeah,
too,
like it was. We all knew. Like the leaks were out of the list of the toys that were coming.
Yeah.
But Hasbro didn't bother showing them.
Right.
They just showed up in the stores.
Right.
So like this, when IGN put the IGN launched the Bulkhead and the Skids, and then you put that up, I think everybody was just kind of like, ooh. Like we like, this is actual official Hasbro. It's not coming from someone who's buying a stolen toy and putting it up months ahead of time. Because their big final reveal at the con was the reformatting Galvatron.
Oh yeah, that thing was awesome.
That came with the accessories to go with Unicron, and somebody had put that up like a week or two ago.
Oh, okay.
Online.
All right.
Because they had got a hold of it out of the factory. So it was. I think a lot of people were really happy with just the fact that here's this character that's loved by fans. It's not, we knew it was coming, but it hadn't leaked. Like really, other than we're getting a Skids in Legacy.
Right.
But we got the first actual look at it was official.
Right.
So I think that was a big part of like the, oh my God, and it just blew up everywhere.
Yeah, there were no spy photos, there were no blurry photos of it.
Yeah,
you know,
nobody like
nobody
it from
like
the warehouse, threw it on their bed, and took a picture of it and uploaded
nobody
it.
Standing in front of it, like at the glass cabinet, like at a show in in Australia or something like that. You know, so yeah, it did get a proper official announcement. You know, so. Yeah, it was cool to see, and it was cool to see it like in the flesh, you know, because up to that point, I had seen like CGI renders of it, you know, so I saw what the final product was possibly going to look like, or most likely going to look like, but to actually see it like in molded plastic was just it's always a really cool thing, you know. I mean, you draw this stuff and you work on it, and you know, having worked on like the comics. And like the toys, comics, like the turnaround is like a lot faster. You know, you could work on a comic and then like 2 months later, it's on stores or on shelves in stores. You know, with the toys, you could work on something, and in some cases, you might forget that you worked on it, and then you're like, if you go on the toy aisles frequently, you might see it and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, oh yeah, that was something we worked on a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So yeah, it's really cool just to see it. Like actually in plastic form like that, you know, after only having seen it in two-dimensional form.
So we've talked before and off like your love for Hondas and stuff, and we talked about some things you did with it. Can you just like let the listeners know, like, were there any like little Honda things, like, because it's not an officially licensed Honda product, so is there like little Easter eggs like the car people who get it will know?
There are. I mean, you know, with their main retail line, it's not like the Masterpiece line where they actually have the licensed cars, right? They can't necessarily.
Yeah, because I mean, really, the only licensed figure we've gotten in this line is the Volkswagen.
The Bumblebee, right?
The
And
Bumblebee.
I think that was just the Netflix version too.
Yeah,
like that.
I don't
think their main. I don't know the licensing rules, so you know, this isn't like an announcement or like any kind of like. This isn't me clarifying, but from what I understand, like I've only seen that it's only the Netflix one that's getting that Volkswagen.
Yeah, that Volkswagen
release, right?
mold's only that
So,
Netflix Bumblebee.
With the main Generations line, all those vehicle modes, they kind of have to be like proxy versions, you know, or like modified versions of what the G1 vehicles originally were. You know, and they can come close, but you do have to make enough changes to where it doesn't infringe on any copyrights, right? So, with Skids, it was the same way. The original car was a Honda City Turbo. So it helped in the case with him because his cartoon model was really like so different. And the comic model, he looked like a minivan in the Marvel comics. He didn't even look like a hatchback car.
He did look like a mini, like a van with like a very thin nose.
Yeah, exactly. So all that was taken into consideration with this vehicle mode. You know, I mean, I knew that it couldn't just be a straight up Honda City Turbo. So I did, you know, try to think of other similar vehicles from that time period, and obviously the same make. So I tried to incorporate some of that in. Yeah, I don't know if I can or should say what they are specifically, but if you know those cars and you like start looking at some of the details, like on the tail lights, the exhaust tips, even like the bumper and like the rear bumper and the front grille, it's got the import style grills on them. And even like the door panel, like on inside the wings, you know, if you look at those, if you know the cars that are similar from that make,
well, I mean, that's,
you might be able to point out some of the details.
I mean, that's like the tracks. Like my favorite character, my favorite car, the Corvettes, and Trax is the blue C3 Corvette. I owned one in my early 20s, and so basically the Generations tracks, like they kind of cartoonized the car, like, because I mean the original toy is like this long.
Oh, right.
And then like the new one is shorter than the original
it's
one.
a little squat.
So with like the fender flares, like the hood's shorter, so the fenders are up higher. They incorporate like his feet look like the front ground effects that would have been on like the 80s model.
Oh yeah.
The 80s model front end. He doesn't have 4 round taillights. He's just got 2 round taillights and then 2 square ones. So I mean, it's to keep away. Like, no, it's not an exact duplicate of
well, that's the thing though. Like in the case of like a Corvette, there are certain signature elements that are like undeniable.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like you said, like the Corvette, one of the signature features of a Corvette are those 4 circular taillights on the back of it. So by omitting that, you know, it's not a definitive feature that would say like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Corvette Stingray. And if you look at like Sideswipe and Sunstreaker, you know, neither one of them are Countaches, but if you look at their features,
you look at it, you go, that's a Lamborghini.
You probably could pick out features from various like cars of the same.
Because especially like Sunstreaker, the Earth, because he just got an Earth mode. He didn't get a Cybertronian mode, but his Earth mode has like the angular rear tire wells.
Right.
But the front end's not as
and they don't.
molded.
They also don't have like the big Countach intakes on the sides.
Yeah,
too.
like it's more level.
It actually looks a little bit more like another, like one of the successors of the Countach.
It's almost like they went like, all right, let's do a Countach Diablo, and just bring those in together.
And that was really like my exact mindset with going in with Skids. Like it was like, you know, take some features from the original toy, the original vehicle, but incorporate other features from it, like from other models that are similar to that one. So that if you are familiar with like the brand and like the aesthetic of it, you should be able to pick out like a few key details on it.
And then speaking of cars and robots, your own property, your creator-owned property. Are there any updates since we last talked about what you've been working on?
Yeah, not much more than I've had a lot of really positive response for. You know, story-wise, like there's a lot more that I've like brainstormed and I've developed and like I've written down. It's just stuff that I haven't actually realized in visual form yet. Because I'm still like trying to get a pulse on it. You know, like I think I just introduced like the first bit of it like back in May. So it's still very, very like early, very ground level.
When we talked before, it was like very early.
It was like, yeah, I think it like when was the other
like
Showcase
June?
Con? Yeah,
Like
it may have been like a month. It may have been just like a couple of weeks before that. But I've really been wanting to get like a pulse on what people thought of it, people's opinions, and so far it's been really positive. So it's encouraging, makes me want to like go forward with it and continue to like, you know, develop it. You know, I've made other things, other material, like to sort of promote it. You know, like I've got pins, I've got prints, I've got a few more art pieces that I've done for it. But as far as like plot and story wise, like there's still a lot that's very much in the works.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like the designs on those mechs are they're great. Like they are absolutely. I mean, Transformers is iconic. You know? And it's just like, you know, the bipedal versions of the Robotech jets. You know, but your style. I mean, because you work on Transformers, it fits in very well. I mean, I mean, it just looks. I mean, to me, it looks amazing. I'm a car guy and a big robot guy, so I love it. So I mean,
same here.
I can't find any fault in it. But I mean, I really can't wait to see like the full story.
Thanks,
and
man.
everything
It's
on it.
like I said, a lot of people ask me about it, and all I can say is like there's more coming, and the ideas are still like I'm still really developing a lot that I just haven't visualized yet. And just stuff that I need to work out in terms of like what can work for the story, basically. Because I do have a solid overall concept for it, but there's just there actually I have like a finale, but it's just like there's like
work into it.
Yeah, there's a lot in between that I need to work up to it. But one thing I've been like saying is like I have a what, I'm working on the how and the why. So, or the why and the how. So I have the what it is, but I have to figure out like, so why it is what it is and how it's all going to unravel and unfold. So
I mean, it's cool to be here with you in that early process, so we can check back and just see it build on itself.
I wanted to have more for today. I really want to have more for today, but it's just stuff.
Yeah, I mean the prints that you have over there, I mean they look amazing. Like
thanks.
I preach the gospel of Robby whenever we talk. Whenever I'm on the forums and I talk about we talk about Transformers. I'm just like the last interview we did back in June, I threw up and it got good. Like people were interested. So I mean, people are out there and they want it. I mean, I think it's gonna be really good. Whatever you do with it, people are gonna eat it up.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean the only other thing we could talk about, qualifying just started.
Oh, I know, right? F1.
Qualifying just started.
The U.S. Grand Prix is happening this weekend.
The U.S. Grand Prix is happening this weekend. You're a Max guy and a Honda guy.
Yeah, if I wasn't here, I would be there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to add, what do you think? I mean, yeah, you want Max to win. Do you think is that going to be how it's going to play out this season?
I mean, it's close. It's close. I mean, I love Hamilton too. Like, I actually love the Mercedes team. You know, and Hamilton's awesome. He's like the most winning F1 champion ever.
100 wins.
Yeah,
like
100 wins.
Than anybody.
Yeah, he's awesome. So, but I'm a Honda guy, so like, and I like Max. Max is, you know, he's controversial. You know, but I like his aggressive style. Like he drives, and sometimes they call him Crash Stappen. Sometimes like that's his nickname. But you know, like he takes risks, and you know, it's F1. It's the sport, right? It's like when they race, they want to go out there and they want to win.
I mean, he's so young. He's gonna be around for so long.
Dude, and that's what's crazy. Like
he's been in F1 for like 7 years.
What is he? He's like 23.
and he's 24.
Yeah. I remember when
he started. I think his first race in F1 was like at 16 or 17.
Yeah. So my first race, I went in 2016. That was like my first introduction to Formula One. I think that was Max's like second year. And I remember my cousin was with us, and he was a little more like informed. He had been following F1 for a little bit longer. And he's like, he even said, like, yeah, watch this Max guy. And at that point, like, so Honda was still with McLaren, too. So I wasn't even, like, at that point, I wasn't rooting for Red Bull.
Yeah.
I was rooting for McLaren because, hey, Honda's with McLaren at that point. So, but my cousin, I remember him specifically saying, he's like, man, this Max Verstappen kid, he's only, like, 2016. How old was he then? Like 18?
Yeah, he had to have been,
19?
if it was his second season, he had to have been 18
dude,
or 19.
I remember seeing, like, footage of him on the podium, and like he couldn't even drink the champagne.
He
wasn't old enough. Yeah, so yeah, and sure enough, just like my cousin said, he's winning. So he's a few points ahead of Lewis right now. So we'll see how he does tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a really good race.
I wish they were
tomorrow.
still racing that white livery, but I know that was just
that
like
that was a nice. That did look really good.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Robby, for coming and talking, and we'll follow up.
Yeah, dude.
Anytime you got anything to say, just let me know.
Yeah, man.
And
Thanks
we'll
for
get it
having me
out there.
again.
Thank
Awesome.
you. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
And we'll be back.
All right, Wayne. Thanks.